I can say is that the fake news just doesn't get it. They don't get it. They didn't get it, especially in 2020. You know, they should have been scrutinizing everything about Joe Biden's life, his record. They didn't. And now, essentially, well, it's too late. We've seen the results. They have a duty, though, and I think we still do as well, to keep talking about this guy. Hey, there's all kinds of things in his background that deserve discussion and exploration. They can censor it, they can deny it, but it's there. And we will continue to go there in a little segment that we call...
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
How could they ignore all that juicy material? Now, we didn't, and I still think it's important to talk about this, even though he's safely in the White House. So the hard drive, the laptop, it's real. The fake news is finally admitting it because one of their reporters wants to make money on a book. But the emails are legit, like this one sent to Tony Bobolinsky. 10% held by H. Hunter for the big guy being, yes, Joe Biden. This is a real email, and it raised all kinds of very troubling questions about the Biden family and how Joe managed to live in all those mansions over the years. And how about this one? After they denied that Joe and Hunter ever talked about business, some guy from Burisma is thanking Hunter Biden for setting up a meeting with his father, then the Vice President of the United States. And all those pictures. Hunter smoking crack, Hunter doing crack here, Hunter doing all this stuff. I hate that he has a problem, and I hope he gets help. But again, if this were Donald Trump Jr. or Eric, you don't think that this would be a huge, huge story? So how did they get away with it? Well, one thing, I got to give Joe a little bit of credit in a weird way. When he blows his top, when he yells at people, whether it's a construction hard hat or some reporter, it actually works. It actually intimidates people, and they back off. I saw it all the time. You did too. When it would come up, and very rarely would it come up, questions about Joe Biden's ethics, he flipped his lid.
How is your role as vice president in charge of policy in Ukraine and your son's job in Ukraine? How is that not a conflict of interest?
It's not a conflict of interest. There's been no indication of any conflict of interest from Ukraine or anywhere else. Period. I'm not gonna respond to that. Let's focus on the problem. Focus on this man, what he's doing, that no president has ever done. No president.
Gets awfully defensive awfully quickly. Of course, there's a conflict of interest. To review, Joe Biden, as vice president, part of his portfolio was Ukraine affairs. I would have picked another part of the world, but he picked Ukraine, where Hunter Biden had that big job. That's a big, big deal. You can't just point and yell, but he did, and it basically worked. How about Savannah Guthrie? A member of the fake news, to be sure, but she went there at least once.
Has it occurred to you that there's a certain irony here, that here the president is accused of and has acknowledged wanting to get information about your son Hunter and his dealings with Ukraine, and this process of impeachment has ensured that everyone knows about Hunter's dealings with Ukraine?
That's a good thing, and no one's found anything wrong with his dealings with Ukraine except they say it sets a bad image.
Well, do you agree that it sets a bad image?
And my son said that.
Do you think it was wrong for him to take that position?
No.
Knowing that it was really because that company wanted access to you?
Well, that's not true. You're saying things you do not know what you're talking about. No one said that. Who said that?
Don't you think that it's just one of those things where people think, well, that seems kind of sleazy?
That does seem kind of sleazy. And people were talking about it all the time. But Joe even denied that. Joe even denied that people were raising questions about this. And his reaction is always the same. Gets really angry, but actually it worked.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
And so how do you know?
Here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of a president. You should be asking him the question, why is he on the phone with a foreign leader, trying to intimidate a foreign leader, if that's what happened? That appears what happened. You should be looking at Trump. Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like a drum.
This is not the way a professional politician, a polished one, should be reacting unless he has something to hide. But those antics, I think they worked because the reporters were taking it. What were the anchors going to do? They saw that, and when they finally got to sit down with Joe for the big moment, like this guy, they weren't going to go there. They were just happy to be there.
It's now 2020, and you're the candidate of change. I wonder, after dreaming of that moment for more than 3 decades, what it was like.
What was it like? He is a good-looking guy. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, even guys who aren't that good-looking, short guys like George Stephanopoulos played the same game.
What are the consequences of a victory by President Trump in 2020?
He worked for the Democrats. He's still working for the Democrats as he gets paid $500,000 a year. Let's see, this automaton from CBS News.
Judge Amy Coney Barrett is on track to become the 9th U.S. Supreme Court justice. That would give the conservatives a 6-3 majority. If elected, would you move to add more justices to the Supreme Court? Could Donald Trump still win this? What do you think is the biggest domestic issue America faces?
These aren't interviews, these are infomercials. And obviously, they want him to win. They're not doing their job. They're not vetting him. And that's key. Remember, look, I've chosen sides. I'm an opinion host. I'm a conservative. I'm pro-Trump. They claim to be neutral. They claim to be objective. And what resulted from their just phoning it in or actually covering up for him? I believe we can blame Afghanistan on these guys. I really do. I believe that we can blame the border crisis on the fake news. Yeah. It may have been great for their careers, but it was horrible, horrible for the country. All right. Something else about Joe Biden. Actually, his wife, Dr. Jill Biden. She's not a real doctor, by the way. Rand Paul is a real doctor. He is a physician. He is a medical doctor. But the New York Times this past weekend called him Mr. Rand Paul in a big profile. Mr. Rand Paul. They didn't mention that he graduated from medical school. Mr. Paul says this. Mr. Paul says that. Meanwhile, in the same paper, right around the same time, Dr. Jill Biden, who is not a real doctor, outside of a university setting, she should not be called a doctor. She has something or other in kindergarten management. She gets the doctor treatment. Not fair. Look, I don't like prying into the personal lives of public figures, but it kind of comes with the territory. They were all over the Trumps, the children, the wives, Melania. So we're going to talk about Jill a little bit. Here she is at last summer's DNC.
I have always loved the sounds of a classroom, the quiet that sparks with possibility just before students shuffle in, the murmur of ideas bouncing back and forth as we explore the world together, the laughter and tiny moments of surprise you find in materials you've taught 1,000,000 times. When I taught English here at Brandywine High School, I would spend my summer preparing for the school year about to start, filled with anticipation.
Come on, everybody spends their summers not filled with anticipation about the fall and school. I don't care how much you love kids, okay? You're dreading it just a little bit, but whatever. Yeah, all right, I'll take her at her word. But here's where things get mythologized by the Bidens, how they met, again from the DNC.
When I met Jill, I knew. My brother said, there's this woman, you'll really like her, Joe. So I gave her a call, and she had a date that night.
You said, do you think you could break your date?
Oh, that's right. And what'd you do?
Well, I called and told the guy that I had a friend in from out of town and went out with Joe.
I wasn't big on the whole date scene thing. But when I met Jill, I fell in love with her when I saw her.
I've got sunshine said, I'd really like to see you again. So he's looking at his calendar and he's, oh, Thursday. No, I'm really busy. No, I'm busy Friday. How about tomorrow? And I thought, buddy, you just blew your cover.
She's owned me since then.
All right, cute story, but it's not true, according to Jill Biden's first husband, who was married to her in the early 1970s. His name is Bill Stevenson. He still lives in Delaware. He told his story. It was barely noticed last fall. Look, he wanted to set the record straight that he was married to Jill when Joe Biden moved in on her. I mean, big time.
So you were friends with Joe Biden?
Oh, yeah. Right before the election in '72, Jill, Joe, Nelia, and I were in his kitchen. How do you forget that?
Stevenson says his first inkling something was up came when Jill refused to go with him to meet Bruce Springsteen, who was booked to appear at the Stone Balloon.
She said, Joe asked me to keep an eye on the boys. And I just thought to the back of my mind,
One day, he says a man came into his bar and asked him to pay damages for a fender bender that involved Jill.
He looks at me and he says, oh, she wasn't driving. I said, her beloved Corvette, she wasn't driving it? He goes, Senator Biden was driving it. And I went, what?
My goodness gracious. Look, you can still, if you like Joe Biden, you can still vote for him. We know that Donald Trump was married multiple times. Ronald Reagan was married twice, and things happen in relationships. But we should have known this, don't you think? It was censored. It was reduced. They had the algorithms that buried this story. Seems like a very nice guy. You can hear his story and still vote for Joe Biden, but people needed to know this. They combed through Donald Trump's divorce records, everything. But this, you never heard about. That's not right. Okay? Okay. Also, this is pretty weird. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died about a year ago, and there are all kinds of tributes out there about the 1-year anniversary of her death. So here are some words of hers that the ACLU really liked, the ACLU, but they changed it. This is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but they changed what she said. The decision whether or not to bear a child is central to a person's life, to their well-being and dignity. When the government controls that decision for people, they are being treated as less than a fully adult human responsible for their own choices. Now, what word did they change? Mother, woman. Yes, you know, it's a birthing person now, right? They totally changed it. The real quote has controversial words like woman's life, to her well-being, she. What is their problem with sex? They're trying to take that out of the equation. This is so crazy. Look, also, it's not nice to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I mean, she never denied that she was a woman. She is not a bad word.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.